1. Excessive self-criticism and perfectionism. Overly critical of yourself is sneaky. It starts with a silly thought like, I should be doing better, and ends with you feeling like an absolute failure. People who make this mistake tend to have extremely high standards, not because they're superior, but because they feel like they have to prove something all the time. The problem? No one can sustain a castle built on guilt and pressure. And the worst part is, the more you demand, the less you evolve, because the fear of making mistakes paralyzes you. Imagine someone practicing semen retention. A simple erotic thought becomes a reason to mentally whip yourself. Oh, I'm no good at this. I'm weak. But the mind doesn't understand punishment as learning. The brain learns with encouragement, not punishment. And every self-criticism becomes fuel for anxiety, which in turn pushes you straight to relapse. Perfectionism is not excellence, it is insecurity in disguise. It is that voice that says that if you are not impeccable, it is not worth it. But the journey of transformation is not about being perfect, but about being constant. A mistake is not a setback, it is a practical lesson. And what differentiates those who win from those who repeat the pattern is not avoiding mistakes, but knowing how to use mistakes as a springboard. Think about it. If a baby fell while trying to walk and was called incompetent, he would never walk. But he gets up, smiles, and tries again. So why do you blame yourself as if you were an unbreakable robot? Self-compassion is a key that no one teaches, but it changes everything. It doesn't weaken you, it prepares you to keep going even when you slip up. And don't confuse self-compassion with being soft. It's possible to be firm with yourself and be kind at the same time. When your mind calms down, your focus returns. When guilt leaves the scene, your decision-making power enters. If you slipped up, take a deep breath. Acknowledge your mistake, understand what led you there, and move forward with more presence. Practical example. Keep a self-awareness journal. Instead of just writing down victories or setbacks, write down how you felt throughout the day, your triggers, and your thoughts. This reveals hidden patterns and reduces self-criticism. Because, in practice, you realize that you are human and that no one emerges unscathed from a true transformation. Also, avoid absolute phrases like, I always do this, or I never manage to do it. They distort reality and amplify the pain. Replace them with phrases like, I'm learning, or I didn't do so well today, but I'm still going strong. Words shape your nervous system. And if you change your internal conversation, you change the script of your story. Another vital point is, stop comparing yourself. So-and-so is 90 days old, you fell after 7. So what? Everyone has a story, a background, and a purpose. Your only reference should be, me yesterday. If you are 1% better, you are winning. And if you fell, but got up clearer, you are already light years ahead of someone who has not even started the journey. Oh, and one last thing. Sometimes what seems like a setback is just part of the process. There are falls that teach you more than weeks of blind discipline. What matters is what you do after the fall. A setback is just a comma, never a full stop. So, how do you deal with all this when there is no real purpose behind your practice? 2. Lack of clear purpose. It's easy to start something when the excitement hits. The hard part is sustaining it when it fades. The lack of a clear purpose turns any attempt into a game of willpower, and let's face it, willpower alone doesn't hold anyone back for long. Without a true why, any headwind turns into a storm. And without direction, the mind sabotages itself on autopilot. When someone practices semen retention without knowing exactly because if you're doing this, everything seems useless in moments of tension. Why try so hard? Is it really worth it? And there goes the focus. Purpose is what gives you roots. And purpose is not a pretty phrase. It's an internal force that pulls you forward even when your mind tries to pull you back. Want an example? An artist who wants to channel his sexual energy into composing authentic music has an emotional why. A man seeking spiritual clarity to meditate better has a heightened focus. And someone who wants to stop feeling enslaved by impulses begins to create inner freedom. The secret is to transform abstinence into a mission. So, ask yourself, what do you want to build with this energy? Do you want to create? Do you want to heal? Do you want to become a reference for your family? If you don't decide this, the world will decide for you. And the world will always pull you towards the easiest path, not the most conscious one. So, define a purpose that moves you deep inside. Because only it will keep you going on days when everything seems dark. A practical tip is to write your purpose on a piece of paper and make it visible. Read it out loud every morning. And what's more, update this purpose as you evolve. Because it also grows with you. When the why is alive, the practice becomes a lifestyle, not a sacrifice. It becomes pleasure, not a punishment. It becomes power, not a prison. Another thing that helps is connecting your purpose with something bigger than yourself. Spirituality, legacy, collective transformation. When the reason goes beyond the ego, discipline stops being a burden and becomes devotion. Have you ever seen people who change their lives when they have a child? Because now the why has taken shape, skin, name. But you can create this inner child now, your new self. If your mind tells you that your purpose is silly or unattainable, ignore it. It is afraid. Because when you live with meaning, it loses control. And the mind hates losing control. So it makes excuses like, this is not for me, or I will wait for the right moment. But the right moment never comes for those who live without purpose. Interestingly, when you have a why, even challenges take on meaning. A stumble doesn't become a failure, it becomes a refinement. A difficult day doesn't become a setback, it becomes a test. And every time you resist, you feel like you're building something real. Something that no one can take away from you. Because the energy you accumulate begins to show you subtle results, clarity, firmness, magnetism. And this feeds your why even more. It's not about creating a perfect purpose, but about finding a starting point. The rest comes with practice. And the beautiful thing is that the more you walk, the more the path reveals itself. And the more the path reveals itself, the more sense everything makes. And that's where a question that few ask comes in, but that changes everything. How are you taking care of your energy to support your purpose? Everything I'm explaining to you here, I explain more calmly in my ebook The Power of Semen Retention. It was made for those who are starting from scratch and want to know how to apply semen retention in their daily lives in a healthy way, without crazy things or exaggerations. It is a practical guide, straight to the point. 3. Imbalance in the energy routine. Sexual energy is not just libido, it is life fuel. When poorly channeled, it turns into anxiety, irritation, or escape into shallow pleasures. Many make the mistake of holding back but not redirecting. The result? The body becomes restless, the mind races, and tension builds up like a pressure cooker about to explode. Holding back without balance is like holding the wind in your hands. It escapes. The truth is that the body was made to move energy. And this energy needs a channel. Yoga, weight training, dance, Tai Chi. All of these help transform tension into presence. It is no wonder that monks, warriors, and wise men from various cultures have always associated retention with physical practices. Not to exhaust, but to refine energy. It is alchemy in motion. And don't think that exercise alone will solve your problem. Your diet, your thoughts, and even the way you breathe affect your vibration. Living foods, conscious breathing, and deep sleep are simple adjustments that change your frequency. An energetic routine doesn't need to be complex. It just needs to be continuous. And it is through consistency that the body learns to flow without relapses. Practical example. Start the day with 10 minutes of deep breathing, inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Do 15 minutes of functional exercise or yoga. Avoid excessive coffee and refined sugar, which inflame the nervous system. And at night, avoid screens and sexual stimulation. A cold shower and a book can do more for you than any trendy series. Another tip is to incorporate spiritual practices. Meditation, prayer, or simply contemplating silence. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are, what matters is creating inner space. Because when the body is centered, the mind also organizes itself. And then, that energy that previously rose as impulse, begins to rise as inspiration. It's also good to create rituals. For example, every time you feel a spike in excitement, get up, drink some cold water, and walk for 5 minutes. It sounds simple, but it conditions your brain to react differently to the stimulus. And over time, This automatic response becomes personal power. The impulse loses strength, and you gain sovereignty. In fact, this imbalance doesn't just affect your body, it affects your relationships too. When your energy is out of balance, you become more reactive, impatient, and scattered. And this affects how you communicate, work, and love. Therefore, taking care of your energy means taking care of your life as a whole. It means being strategic with yourself. And see, balance is not rigidity. It is flow. It is knowing how to alternate between action and rest, strength and gentleness. If you only work, you burn out. If you only rest, you stagnate. Wisdom lies in the dance between the two. And each person has their own rhythm. Discovering yours is part of the journey. Without a solid energy routine, retention becomes a prison. But with it, it becomes liberation. The energy rises, clears, and drives. And the best part? This balance begins to affect even your dreams, your ideas, your creativity. But all of this loses strength if you continue to surround yourself with stimuli that sabotage this energy field. Mistake 4. Surrounding yourself with triggers. There's no point in trying to keep your mind clear if your surroundings are polluted. Many men try to practice semen retention, but they live surrounded by stimuli that light the fire of desire at every turn. It's like trying to stay sober in a bar. Relapse, in this case, is not a surprise, it's just a matter of time. And the worst part? Sometimes, the trigger isn't even obvious. It comes disguised as an innocent scroll on your cell phone. A quick glance at social media, a nothing special video, a click on a suggestive thumbnail, and voila! The mind activates the ancient neural pathways that connect pleasure with pornography or masturbation. These visual triggers act as microdoses of addictive dopamine. And the more you give in, the more your brain asks for. It's a silent and treacherous trap. Want to protect yourself? Start by creating smart barriers. Install website blockers on your phone and computer. Remove apps that expose you to sensual content. Most importantly, replace these sources of stimulation with others that feed your purpose. For example, instead of scrolling through your Instagram feed, read something that uplifts you. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle or Self-Mastery by Ryan Holiday are great places to start. Another essential point is to protect your nighttime routine. Most relapses happen at night, when the mind is tired and defenses are low. Avoid lying in the dark with your cell phone in your hand. Create a closing ritual: dim lights, a warm bath, quiet music, uplifting reading. If possible, leave your cell phone in another room. If not, use airplane mode. This changes the game. But what about emotional triggers? Yes, they count too. Boredom, frustration, loneliness. These are internal triggers that lead you to seek immediate pleasure. Therefore, in addition to avoiding external stimuli, you need to learn to deal with what you feel. Guided meditation, writing in a journal, talking to someone you trust. All of this helps to disarm these triggers before they drag you down. Another practical exercise: map out your main triggers. Grab a pen and paper and write down 3 situations that most often lead you to relapse. Then, outline a strategy for each one. For example, if being home alone at night is a trigger, create an activity for the same time. Study, exercise, call a friend, or even tidy up the house while listening to an inspiring podcast. And remember, avoiding triggers isn't cowardice, it's intelligence. You're not running away from life. You're just choosing what kind of life you want to build. And anyone who builds something big knows they have to say no to a lot of little things. Creating a clean environment is protecting your focus, your energy, your transformation. One important thing to note: the longer you stay away from triggers, the more your brain starts to rewire itself. What was once tempting starts to seem shallow, empty, even ridiculous. But this takes time, and each exposure delays this process. So be firm. The environment you allow around you shapes the identity you are creating. Of course, even taking all these precautions, the journey can be lonely. And that's exactly where the next mistake many people make lies: trying to do everything alone. 5. Lack of emotional/community support. Trying to overcome it alone is one of the biggest traps on the journey of transformation. The idea that a real man can endure everything in silence is not only outdated, it's dangerous. Because in silence, the mind becomes an enemy. And when heavy thoughts hit, with no one around to listen, advise, or simply be there for you, relapse seems like the only relief available. It's not weakness. It's an unacknowledged emotional need. The truth is that the right support multiplies your strength. When you share your journey with someone, it stops being a solitary burden and becomes a group journey. It could be a friend, a mentor, a therapist, or even an online community. What matters is not the number of people, but the quality of the exchange. One deep conversation is worth more than 10 motivational videos. Have you ever noticed how much easier it is to be consistent when someone is watching you? The presence of others creates accountability. When you are in a group with a common purpose, whether it is retention, meditation, reading, or self-control, motivation naturally increases. There is a sense of belonging that reminds you, I am not alone in this. And this alone reduces anxiety and the burden of the journey. And here's a practical tip. Look for serious forums, Telegram groups, support networks with a real focus on growth. If possible, form a duo of accountability, like a brother in the journey. Every week, share your learnings, challenges, and setbacks. You help each other see what would be invisible on your own. And what's more, this exchange generates humility. Teaching also makes you stronger. Another powerful solution is to seek therapy. You don't have to be in crisis to start. Quite the opposite. Having a neutral space where you can express yourself without judgment is one of the greatest gifts anyone can give themselves. What's more, a good therapist can help you see the hidden patterns behind your relapses, such as old traumas, sabotaging beliefs, or dysfunctional family dynamics. Speaking of family, sometimes what we need most is to rewrite our emotional history. Many people turn to pornography or masturbation not for pleasure, but as an escape. An escape from pain, loneliness, and a lack of true affection. And this can only be resolved with real connection. So, reconnect with real people. Invest in deep friendships. Be vulnerable with those who deserve your trust. Remember, even wise men had disciples and teachers. Even ancient warriors had brothers in arms. No one wins alone. Strength is multiplied in the collective. And even if you enjoy solitude, which is great, having strategic support points is what gives you support on difficult days. Balance is knowing when to be alone, and when to ask for help. And here's what's curious. Many relapses happen precisely after periods of prolonged isolation. The so-called flatline, that period of lack of motivation, libido, and lack of spark, is common when there's a lack of connection. Energy needs to circulate. And sometimes, circulating means talking, laughing, listening, and being heard. Don't underestimate the power of a hug or a sincere conversation. Little by little, with the right support, practice stops being a struggle and becomes a path. And you start to realize something surprising. The more you share, the more you learn. The more you give, the more you receive. And this transforms everything, including your self-perception. Because deep down, every bad habit you want to overcome is just your body asking for more presence, more love, more truth. And maybe now is the time to look at all of this head-on, and make peace with your history, your body, and your cycles. Because before you can change on the outside, you have to change on the inside. And every internal change starts with a powerful idea. Now that you know the 5 mistakes that are silently sabotaging your progress, the question remains, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Are you going to let it slip through your fingers like it has happened before? Or are you going to truly apply it, with focus, presence, and awareness? Because, believe me, it's not about how much you know, it's about how much you practice. How many times have you found yourself repeating patterns you promised to break? How many goals have you abandoned because of distractions, excuses, or silent relapses? If you're tired of living in cycles, maybe it's time to break the cycle. And that starts with one decision. Just one. Today. So tell me in the comments, which of these mistakes do you make the most? And what practical action will you take from now on? Sure. This is the first step to taking control of your journey. And if you want to continue learning how to master your habits and transform your energy, you already know what to do. Like this video, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Because here you will not find shallow advice, but truths that change destinies. Let's go together, one step at a time, to get out of stagnation and create a life worth living.